I'm now joined by Jim Leaviss, Head of Retail Fixed Income at M&G. Jim, thanks very much for joining us today. What I'm really interested in understanding is it's now a week since Brexit, and it's obviously a very hot topic here today at the FT Festival of Finance. How has the team reacted? How have you reacted to the news that Britain will be leaving the EU in the not too distant future?
Well, I think pretty much everybody who lives in London or worked in financial markets expected a result where we would be remaining in the EU. So getting that cab in on Friday morning at a stupid hour in the morning, it's just one of disbelief and shock, really. I always thought there was a chance that we'd exit. I thought that the opinion polls would underestimate the degree of people hiding the fact that they really were going to vote for leave, but nevertheless still a shock, even if you might have expected it at the back of your mind. So a week later, where are we? Well, the government's fallen, the Labour Party's in disarray, and this morning George Osborne's come out and said that those budget surplus targets that he had are being scrapped effectively. That's exactly the right thing to do. Mark Carney's come out and said he's going to provide unlimited liquidity effectively for the UK banking sector. He's talked about rate cuts over the course of the summer, which again will be necessary. So UK rates will head down to unseen 0% base rates, and we'll get more QE. And also, very importantly, as I say, because George Osborne has done away with that target, we can maybe accommodate a bit more fiscal stimulus than we've experienced. And really that's been one of the big problems since the great financial crisis, and maybe one of the reasons that Britain's voted to leave was this austerity narrative, the fact that even though growth has been so weak, governments have tried to reduce the amount of borrowing rather than, as Keynes would have liked to, increase the amount of borrowing.
And we've seen a lot of action in sterling in particular. Obviously, that's where the main impact has been of this news, and it's very, very volatile. What about other markets? Do you think Carney was right in saying the economy or investors are suffering from post-traumatic stress syndrome at the moment?
Yeah, although if you look at the corporate bond market, we were talking about this earlier with Richard Woolnough, who was speaking on the stage here at the Festival of Finance. Actually, a lot of corporate bonds in the sterling market are now trading at narrower spreads than they were just over a week ago. So corporate bond markets are not petrified about this outcome. They know that companies have got big cushions of cash, and they know that the banks, whether it's the European Central Bank buying corporate bonds, Bank of England perhaps doing more QE, there is this big support over credit markets, which means that we've not seen the widening that you might have guessed beforehand in either credit or emerging markets or high yield, whatever it may be. The pressure valve has been currencies, but even then, I mean, sterling's off 10 or so %, but we've not seen the dramatic movements that some of us might have predicted.
And we did a poll recently on our Twitter account asking our Twitter followers what the most likely outcome was for the UK from here in terms of its relationship with the EU. And around about 40%, the top response was a Norway-style EEA agreement. How likely do you think that is in reality?
I think this has been a democratic vote. It'll be very, very difficult for whatever government happens next, whether it's Theresa May or Gove or whoever ends up being the next leader of the Conservative Party, to get away from leaving the EU. So in our poll as well, around 30% of people said they thought we'd stay. I think that's, whilst that might be what people would like to happen, I think it's very unlikely. This was democracy in action. We kind of have to leave at this point. The other alternative is to go the full WTO, negotiate all your own trade agreements with each individual country around the world, and that seems an impossible mission as well. So I think they're right. You know, the most likely outcome is we end up with some kind of EEA agreement where we have all the trading benefits with Europe. We pay exactly the same amount of money in, but we don't have the rights about voting or vetoing legislation. So in some ways, it's a window dressing exercise without actually achieving anything that perhaps the Brexiteers wanted ex ante.
Right. All right, Jim, thanks very much for your time today. I'll let you get back to it.
Thanks.
Cheers. Thanks very much.